here. The temple should be here. At the outset, I offer my deepest regards to the Supreme Goddess in the form of Mother Sharada. My regards to Sri Ramakrishna, to Gauri Mata, all mothers of Shardashri Ashram, and all sages of India and sages of the world. Good wishes to everybody present here. Today is a very special occasion for us because those who are trying to have their realization of God in life, we are actually trying to support them and handle them to the extent it's possible. Probably many of you, or I don't know, some of you have received a book with the title Ishwar Labh Jivone, God Realization in Life. I guess this is an aspect of spirituality which is very sensitive and hardly touched upon in a public by anyone in the world. There was a mentioning of the realization of God in the Western civilization in the Grecian period. Pythagoras was the first person who, though did not have a faith and belief in this, but had mentioned to make a criticism of that. He had mentioned that this God realization as an instrument of life in civilization creates a small group or a group of elites or a group of specials. And that small group or group of elites or group of specials are groups for segmenting the societies across, and that's not good for human society as a whole. In our country, it's very usual, normal for our wisdom seekers and spiritual seekers from the very, very ancient period of time. Very recently, I wish to mention before you all, very recently, University of Harvard from USA, Harvard University, our team in the 90s of the last century had started working on the theology and extending that to the realm of faith, belief, and the impact of that society in the society to the extent of arch for realization of God. One of those prominent personalities, Samuel, with his leadership in the team, he came up with a concept called Clash of Civilizations. And extending to that, Clash of Civilizations mentioned that a new civilization has to be apart from the thoughts of spirituality and thoughts of God. That's what the Western civilization has contributed as of now. However, there were some mentioning about by the European scholars, and some of the scholars, having seen the Indian wisdom reflected in the lives of people, some of them have come up with their own mentioning of the amazing things that the world has produced. One such was from European soil, Sir Max Muller, when he was talking about the Eastern philosophies, he had mentioned the Vedic sages have done really the wonder. Rama, when he came up with the concept of man gods, like I guess many of you might be knowing here, I believe many of you are aware of this. He had mentioned the personality of Sri Ramakrishna is a wonder to the world. He is a wonder to the world, the extent that he is a wonder being here as a human person in the human body, but at the same time transcending almost of the times, the barriers of humans. A God in the frame of life of a man. And he could extend this saying that this has got the potential to breed in many more lives or inspire many more lives in the world. Where are the sources of inspiration? When Gauri Mata had rushed to Sri Ramakrishna in Dakshineshwar, she was already enriched with the spiritual concept. It's not that she went there without any kind of knowledge of spirituality and spiritual process and learned from there for the first time. That concept is not right. Actually, when she had first the interaction with Sri Ramakrishna, she was full of the thoughts of India's different streams of spirituality. And those who have actually observed, I would request you all to pick up a copy of Shubham, published by Shardashri Ashram, the latest issue of Shubham. I have contributed there an article in English on Sri Ramakrishna, the ocean of devotion. That I have mentioned the purpose of appearance of this wonder in the world, God in this abode in the world, was to create a new civilization with a founding concept or a founding principle or even a founding practice, if that be, of devotion in the world. Devotion is considered by many and has been explained by many in the spiritual world as subordinate to what they call is Vedanta. It's not. It's not a fact. Without an element of love and devotion for God, no other factor can attain that kind of tranquility of the divine in life. Kathopanishad is a representation of that. As the young speakers they have mentioned, starting from Chandrika and Anirban having explained the Satyasya Panthanam Mahamantram. This is what was needed. We have the mantras. I've seen in the entire Vedas, Rig Vedas, Sam Vedas, Krishna Yajur Vedas, Atharva Veda, Shukla Yajur Vedas. All these Vedas traverse from invocation of God in life and get unto the translation of that in life. The Vedic sages had thought about inviting God in life, adopting the principles of God in life, turning the life around to a godly life or a divinely life, and then finally spreading that goodness across the society throughout everywhere. And that makes a homogeneous society, homogeneous civilization. So when Samuel says clash of civilization, Samuel should understand that here is a country in India which was actually observed by some scholars in the Western world and Now there are some people who are working on that. Pristal, T-double-L, is one of such leader of the team who were appointed by the UNESCO to explore the remnants of Vedic civilization anywhere in the world, including India. And they've come up with a remarkable research product, and that is supported by UNESCO. And the largest project so far adopted by UNESCO in the world until today. And that says that yes, there was a civilization which had such a power and the potent inbuilt in it, and it had seeded in the mind of human society, mind of people, that it will never die. It will continue producing the multiplications of that thoughts in different forms, different identities. And that has actually happened and is going to happen in the future. The coming in this world of personalities like Rama Krishna, I'm not mentioning and comparing anyone else with this. I have a respect and regard for all personalities of divinity. And in fact, every person has got that element of divinity. As my previous young speakers have mentioned about quoting the Katha position, that there was a boy around 10 to 12 years old, Nachiketa. Nachiketa যখন ওর বাবার কাছে আসে, বাজশ্রবার কাছে, Baba used to love him so much. He had a strong love for his son. But again, son also had a strong faith and respect for the father. But at the same time, what happened is, when the son approaches the father on a cause, the father gets defeated in mind and gives an ultimatum to the son in a way which was not of an element of his desire. Even then, as he has mentioned, that has to take place because of the book that he had in him. The learning that came through Nachiketa from the god of death or god of rule, Yama, is the learning that the intrinsics have got the powers and potent full of the divinity. Atman is seated with it. It's a very small granule. There was mentioning by many sages. One of the sages came to his master, his guru, saying that I am unable to understand the reality through which the Supreme can be realized, understood in life. Could you please explain in simple terms? And he said, yes, it is possible. And how is it possible? Okay, I'm sitting beneath a banyan, and you pick up a fruit of the banyan tree. It was picked up by Svetaketu, he was the disciple, and said, do you understand what is the power of this fruit? The master had asked to the Lana, and the Lana had said, yes, I know that this fruit gives birth to this, gives rise to trees like this and maybe this tree as well. Well, I want to see what is that contained within. Break it down. Vidi, Sindavaha, Tavaha. And then what happened is, he had broken that down and got, what did you find inside? 2 granules only. Pick up one and break it open. See what's there inside the granule. Svetakatu had the privilege to break it down. And then he came up with the answer to the question, saying that nothing is visible inside. It's all void. Then the master had said, that's where divinity also lies. Bhumahi kevalam satyam, bhumahi jagadat jagat, bhumahi jagadat titam, Tumaihi Jagadhita. This void is the creation. This void is the seeding of everything. This void can have or can take up the power to multiply, to grow further and to grow wider. And this void is there everywhere. It's the sky. Dahar Vidya. Dahar Vidya. Dahar Vidya ki Akash Tattva. ঋষি বললেন আকাশ রয়েছে তোমার মধ্যে, তোমার মনের মধ্যে আকাশ আছে, প্রাণের মধ্যে আকাশ আছে। The scientists have discovered that yes, it is the void that lies inside every particle. When you come to the intrinsics of a molecule, you'll find atoms. Pick up one atom, you break it, you'll find fundamental particles. You break it open, you find even more fundamental particles. You break it further, you find absolutely fundamental, what is the God particle now considered by the scientists? 10 to the power minus 91, I'm sorry, minus 21 is the dimension, millimeter. 10 to the power minus 21 dimension of a millimeter. And how long it survives? It survives only 10 to the power minus 17 seconds. Meaning 1 second divided by 3 trillion, that fragment. So there's no time, it's zero time. No mass, it's a zero mass. So that's why. And the scientists don't have other option but to accept that that's the foundation of everything in this universe. Whatever is there, that's the foundation. That's what was mentioned by our sages. Yataho vai imani budhani jayante yenu jatani jivanti yat prana pravisha. That Rama, Nachiketa was mentioned by Yama. You find anything and everything here and there. You believe in this, that this divine is present in everything. Divine is present everywhere. This is what is the paramount civilization of what India stood for. Shri Ramakrishna যেদিন দক্ষিণেশ্বরে যেদিন তার সাধারণ পাবলিক সবার কাছে তার ওটা প্রয়োজন ছিল, যেদিন তিনি ওটাকে উন্মোচন করলেন তার কিছুদিনের মধ্যেই চারদিকে আগুন জ্বলে উঠল ব্রিটিশ শাসনের বিরুদ্ধে। সিপাহী বিদ্রোহ শুরু হয়ে the Sipahi mutiny had started almost concurrent to the timing of the first public realization, publicly expressed realization of Sri Ramakrishna in front of Goddess Kali, in the midst of the divine ambience of Dakshineshwar temple, and in that the Panchaboti, the 5 shaded trees which are there. That's the concept. And after that, when his main disciple Vivekananda came back from the west to India, first landed in Colombo, started giving a series of talks, Colombo to Almora, I guess most of you know. What are the content? He wanted to revive the spirit within India. And the spirit, the moment it's revived, the spirit combines to get you emancipated in your mind first, and then that combined force acts upon the national and the international or global society or the society of your proximity. And then what happens is, it's the revolution, it's the emancipation, it's the freedom which was seeded and it started from there. Spirit, Rama. I told in some place outside India that it's the human civilization which is benefited because of the coming of Sri Ramakrishna. Why? Because prior to the visit of Vivekananda in the West, the services offered by monasteries in the world, monastery services, different types of spiritual organizations and social organizations. What they used to do is to offer services, but with a kind of intrinsic conditionality. One of the speakers in the last, she mentioned that love for God without any condition. But there was a condition. It is the first time after Vivekananda's travel to the West, talking to the West, interacting with people in the West, that the monasteries started opening up their frontiers and the monasteries started offering services, cross-cultural, others, without conversion, without persuasion, without making them, pulling them down to their own fold. Such kind of liberated view the world could take. That's a unique contribution of a seed of a civilization by Sri Ramakrishna. And that was carried forward by two different strips. I've clearly mentioned in it's a survey of Kathamrita, the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. Nearly 260 songs were sung by Sri Ramakrishna, of which 67%, close to 70%, were the devotional songs to the mother. Around 15% plus, 15 to 17%. It varies because there are some songs which have got both ways, which are Vaishnavic devotional songs. Around 10% only were only Vedantic songs. Yet we call Sri Ramakrishna as a Vedanta. I guess we need to correct. Why Sri Ramakrishna gave that much of importance to Gauri Mata and gave her the personal oration? And the only person is not only for liberating the women of the world, not only to initiate the women liberation and women education and support the women, it's about for infusing the idea of love and devotion in the society across. That has not been heard, that has not been spread as well as yet. We are trying. I guess you should come forward. You should come forward. Why? Because that's the essence of spirituality in the world. Whoever, from wherever, with whatever identity, doesn't matter. Whether you belong to the eastern part of the world or the western part of the world, doesn't matter. Whether you belong to one particular culture or the other, doesn't matter. Whether you belong to any particular class of the economic identity, doesn't matter. Whether you belong to any identity of education or basic or fundamentals, it doesn't matter. The basic spirit is you are a representation of the divine on earth. You are a representative of God. That's what was the belief spread by Vedic sages. And Sri Ramakrishna had said, even after Samadhi, we started having that devotion. And that's what Banerjee Maharaj has mentioned. Banerjee Maharaj has mentioned Ashtanga Sadhana. That's what the first part. First part. Samadhi pad, Sadhan pad, Vibhuti pad, Kaivalya pad. Bhagavat বলছেন শ্রবণ কর, কীর্তন অন্তরে কীর্তন কর, বিষ্ণু স্মরণ কর, অন্তরে ভগবানকে স্মরণ কর, পাদসেবক, ভগবানের সেবায় নিয়োজিত হও, অর্চন, তোমার যা আছে, what do you have? একজন বলেছেন আমাদের যা ট্রুথ পজিশন আছে সেটাকে কি দিতে পারো, তোমার কি গবার আছে, জগতের রিসোর্স, ইটস নট ইয়ার্স। ঈশাবাস্যম ইদম সর্বম যৎকিঞ্চ জগত্যাং জগৎ তেন তেক্তেন ভুঞ্জিতা মাতৃদকস্য সীতনম। Who says that the wealth that you belong is yours? It's not. The wealth, the resources, including your contents, it's all derived. You are just custodians. Maintain this in the world in the best possible and the most honest manner. But if you deviate, the law of karma, the doctrine of karma will catch hold of you. Why Yama could not punish Nachiketa? On the other hand, rather, he had offered Nachiketa with these three important wounds, because Nachiketa was thoroughly, totally powerful with his power and strength of spirit of truth. Satyasya Panthana. The truth, the pathway of truth adopted in that very young life. And Nachiketa was a representation of that. That's why Yama could not say no to Nachiketa. Had to give the gift to Nachiketa the way and the extent Nachiketa wanted to get from him. That's why Kathopanishad plays a very, very important role here. When you want to spread the concept of transcendental identity of God and at the same time have the spirit of divinity in the form of devotion and love for God within, then you have to take refuge in these sages of India during the Vedic period. And Kathopanishad is one such strong source of that. এইটুকু বললাম আজকে, আবার পরে যখন দেখা হবে অনেক কথা হবে। আজকে যারা বলেছেন, যুবকরা যারা বলেছেন, যুবক ইয়াং পার্সনস যারা বলেছেন, তারা প্রত্যেকেই দে আর অ্যাসপিরেন্টস, বাট মাইন্ডেড এভরিওয়ান, ইচ ওয়ান। যারা বলেছে তাদের মধ্যে একজন খুব সিনিয়র গভর্নমেন্ট অফিসিয়াল ভারত সরকারের, বাকিরা সবাই টিচার। দে আর টিচিং পোস্ট গ্রাজুয়েটস, দে আর হাইলি কোয়ালিফাইড, দে আর এস্টাবলিশিং লাইফ, দে হ্যাভ গট স্ট্রাগলস। Big ladies, most of you know what kind of struggles the ladies have to pass through. In our country, as yet it is there. Unfortunate, but it's there. They pass through that kind of struggles. But I'm so happy in getting some people who undertake struggle with a smile. And the struggle they undertake with a smile, not only undertaking that as a gift of God or kind of destiny, they want to fight it out with their own contributions to the society in the form of living truth. Satyasya Panthanam, Ritasya Panthanam. What is Ritam? Ritam is translating the principle of truth in action in your life. When you can do that, that actually conforms. গৌরী মায়ের জীবনে দেখলে যদি ভালো করে বোঝা যায়, তাহলে দেখা যাবে যে সেখানে এই এলিমেন্টটা একেবারে এক্সট্রিমলি স্ট্রং। আমাদের তার কাছ থেকে এখন শিক্ষা নিতে হবে। এখনো শুরু হয়নি শিক্ষা নেওয়া, সামান্যটাই হয়েছে, এখন প্রায় সবটাই বাকি আছে, সবটাই আমাদের আনাট করতে হবে। আপনাদের সবাইকে নমস্কার, ধন্যবাদ।
কঠোপনিষদের উপর ব্যাখ্যা আলোচনা করে আমাদের জ্ঞানকে সমৃদ্ধ করলেন অধ্যাপক এবং বিশিষ্ট শিক্ষাবিদ ডক্টর রমাপ্রসাদ বন্দ্যোপাধ্যায় এবং তার ছাত্রছাত্রীবৃন্দ। শারদেশ্বরী আশ্রমের পক্ষ থেকে রমাপ্রসাদ বাবুকে ধন্যবাদ জানাই এবং আমাদের আবদার রইল অদূর ভবিষ্যতে তিনি আরও এরকম সুন্দর সন্ধ্যা আমাদের উপহার দেবেন। আমাদের পরবর্তী অনুষ্ঠান নৃত্য পরিবেশিত হবে। কথামৃতে নজরুল এবং রবীন্দ্রনাথ এই শিরোনামে গিরিডি আশ্রমের ছাত্রবৃন্দ নৃত্য পরিবেশন করবেন। আপনারা সেটা উপভোগ করুন।